Hello, everybody.
Hi, everybody. It's Jamie and Marcus here.
And welcome to Chef on a Mission Radio. Eat, learn, live.
Yes. I was just going to say eat, learn, live. Sorry.
Learn, live. We are here to share some insightful stories about the restaurant industry, about health, about just about everything. Eat, learn, and live.
Eating, learning, and living.
Yep, the good life. The good life. So we have another great show again today, Jamie and I.
We sure do.
We love sharing what we learn in the restaurant, and we love sharing what we do in our personal lives.
Absolutely.
To empower people, educate, inspire. Part of our mission statement, part of our why is to really educate and inspire people through their diet, lifestyle, with their business endeavors, their health. So we're here to
share our information. Just share, and just give you up to date stuff, like things that we're doing. You know.
And let's talk about our restaurant first, because all this, it wouldn't be possible if we didn't have our beautiful restaurant.
Yes.
So tell them a little bit about Aroma, Jamie.
Absolutely. So we have owned Aroma since 2003, 2004, right? And we are located in Ellenville, New York. We pride ourselves on all ingredients that we're bringing into the restaurant. We're just super proud, and we want to support local independents. And our bar is that way, our food is that way, and sorry, I lost my train of thought for a moment there.
We have a lot to talk about.
We do. My mind is going crazy right now, thinking about all of the things that we're going to be talking about in this show. And
we were planning the show, and of course, you said, well, how are we going to fit everything in there? So we had to slash a couple of topics. But the good news is we are every week.
We have a lot to talk about and a lot to share all the time.
And our YouTube channel is packed with a lot of information.
It sure is.
So where's the restaurant located in case somebody wants to find us?
Absolutely. So we're located in Ellenville, New York, 165 Canal Street. We are...
New York State, not New York City.
Yes, New York State. So upstate New York, about 90 miles north of New York City.
Do not show up to 165 Canal Street in Manhattan. We're not there. I don't even think there's an address 165 Canal Street.
I don't think so.
Because people have shown up there before. That's how we know this.
Yes.
They're like, I'm knocking at your front door. I'm outside, or I'm out inside where you're supposed to be. And there is no 165 Canal. That's impossible. I'm outside my door, and I don't see you here. So, like you said, open 2004. We are extremely farm to table, conscious about all of our ingredients, the relationships we form. We have an amazing wine list, amazing beer list, incredible resource from the farmers up here in the Hudson Valley, greater Hudson Valley, as we like to say. What kind of food do we serve?
Oh my gosh, we serve everything. Eclectic is kind of what we call it. A little bit of everything. So we have thin crust whole wheat pizzas, and they're actually organic. And we have, burgers and salads. We also have wild salmon, 100% wild salmon. We have some Thai dishes. We have some pasta dishes. We do some meats, right? We do some different meats. So we do a little bit of everything. I would definitely say we do a little bit of everything.
Great. Yep. We sure do. So let's talk about what we want to talk about first.
Sure. So we are going to talk about what does organic really mean to people.
This is a great topic.
It sure is. And, we just listened to a, was it a podcast?
It was a video.
Yes, a video. And
it was an article and / video combined.
Yes. And it was interesting. The lady talked about interviewing other people just on the street randomly and educated people, yeah, and asking them what organic actually meant to them. So
people that actually eat organic, people that actually go to the store and buy organic. She was asking. These are well-to-do people. These are people that are educated. So it's really good. So
let's talk a little bit about who made the organic certification first.
Sure. Do you want to talk about what people think about organic or no?
We can talk about that a little bit.
Tell our your findings on that.
Absolutely. So most people that were interviewed, what they mentioned was they are chemical-free produce is what they talked about. Pesticide, chemical-free produce. And I think that was around, I mean, everybody said that. I mean, nobody talked about the farmers or,
Nobody
the
talked about the
land or the
environment.
environment, right?
The environment. Nobody talked about the future. Nobody talked about that. All they said was chemical free, and expensive.
And expensive.
And expensive.
They were worried about the cost of it.
So
talk about who made the organic certification.
So the USDA organic certification was made by the government. Now, there are other certifications out there, like the Oregon Tilth, the California, NOFA, the Northeast one here, the Farming Association, they have one. At some point, a lot of states had their own individual criteria. Colorado had their organic certification. It was just part of what things were done. And then the USDA came up and said, let's do one national one. And of course there's international ones too, like QAI. There's a lot of ones out of Europe, out of South America. So they're all over the place. But the US government said, let's make a standard one that we know, the consumer knows, this is the standards on it. Now you can have the Oregon Tilth, you can have the California, you can have the NOFA, you can have the Colorado. Most of those will conform into the USDA. So it automatically qualifies them to do USDA because of what they're doing. Some, I'm not sure if everyone does qualify, because again, everyone can be different. Any state, any organization, I can come up with a qualification, a certification, write my own standards, and get people to buy into it and put a stamp on it saying Chef Marcus's organic certification.
That was interesting. You said to buy into it. I found that very interesting that you said that, because I think there are a lot of people out there that don't believe that organic is any different.
There are a lot of people still that don't think organic, and there's.
Or why would I pay more money for something that's labeled organic, right? I mean,
right. So the USDA logo, the USDA organic logo, that was made by big companies. Big companies stepped in and said, if we're going to do a national thing, logo, standard certification, then the big companies need to play the game. So they're the ones like Earthbound, to name one. Or let's go even better, General Mills. General Mills will now buy up brands. They might create their own brands. So they'll buy up brands that are organic. And they want to play the game on a big national level. So for example, in the chicken realm, you're still allowed to soak organic chickens or spray organic chickens with chlorine.
Wow.
That's still allowed, because if they didn't allow that, then the organic chicken market would be so tight and would be so small that the big guys couldn't play the game. Now, we have a local processor here called Murray's. They don't use chlorine. They use electrolysis water. So it's a very low acidic water, very acidic, very low pH, I should say, water that these chickens are soaked into to kill anything. This is basically, it's like a vinegar solution, but not the vinegar taste.
Right.
Vinegar is a very, very low pH. Vinegar cleans an amazing amount of things. And when your grandmother would soak the chicken in the sink with vinegar, she knew what she was doing,
yes.
Right? She knew what she was doing. So now companies need to do this on a big level and still be certified organic. So, for example, Purdue, let's just say Purdue. Purdue comes and they put their own representative on the board. Earthbound puts their own representative on the board. The Wisconsin Cheese Board puts their own representative on the USDA board. So, for example, I don't know if you remember, but back in 1999, 2000, I was nominated for the board. We were moving from Colorado. I was nominated, and I was told there's no way I would ever get it because this is a corporate game they're playing. They're never gonna pick a chef with common sense,
right?
Who wants to do the right thing. They're only going to pick companies that move organic in a direction forward. Whether it's right or wrong is basically what I was told. So some of the things they do are quite questionable, because you have to think, if there's a massive company out there in California that monocrops 3,000 acres of carrots and only does carrots, their land is not going to be as fertile as a farmer who rotates his carrots.
Right.
And so they had to say this to the big farm, what do you need to make sure you can grow all 3,000 acres of organic just carrots? So they might need to spray copper. They might need to do things that aren't totally 100% legit, that your local farmer at the farmer's market won't do, because he's like, well, that's not the real organic.
Right.
So you have to, it's buyer beware.
And you have to be careful too, right? Because people see the word natural on things.
People see natural. There's no definition for natural. There's no legal definition for natural, craft distilled, craft made, handmade, anything like that. There's no legal definition. You can take these people to court, and the courts basically say, well, there is no definition, like the organic definition.
Right.
So that becomes even trickier or misleading to the consumer.
Right.
So organic, the one thing people think about organic is they think, well, I'm just buying and I'm wasting money. You're not wasting money. Here's the one issue that the organic does have, and it's not their fault. There's contamination.
Right.
There's contamination, and it's not the farm's fault. It's the neighbor's fault. It's the environment's fault. It's the organic transition. When you hear a farm saying that we're in transition, they have to wait a minimum of 3 years typically to put the organic logo on it. They can transition into logo and stop spraying, but the most...
so really just 3 years, right?
3 years of clearing up the land, which doesn't, folks, that's not a lot.
And if your neighbor's spraying and it rains, what happens with the rainwater? Where does it go?
Where does it go? Exactly.
The what do you call it? The
runoff.
The roots and the runoffs. You don't know. You have no idea.
Right. So, the water table is contaminated.
You know, we had an interesting story that we had read about years ago. And why don't you tell the Earth Best story?
Well, the Earth Best story,
yes.
The
Earth Best story.
So Arnie and Ronnie Koss, Koss. We have their book here somewhere because they've actually been to the restaurant.
Yes.
They're from Ellenville.
They're from Ellenville.
So these guys set out on a mission to make the first organic baby food on the market. And this is what's revolutionized what these guys did. They don't own the company anymore because the big company owns it. And along the whole way, they were faced with a lot of struggles of how to raise more revenue, how to raise more capital to keep growing the business, or to keep the business just getting the prototype on the market. So their whole concept of Earth's Best, they had to keep selling off equity in it, equity. They'd keep giving away equity to raise money. So when it was all said and done and this company blew up and it was a national success, they barely had a piece of it. But we had a very specific conversation with them. And he's like, Marcus, with them, the brothers, they go, Marcus, what you're buying in organic is you're buying a future. Because you're showing that farm confidence where they don't have to spray chemicals. And each time a new farm can come on and stop spraying harmful chemicals, that one farm by one farm, the land is going to be cleaned up. So you're buying a future is what you're buying. And he also admitted that, hey, things are contaminated. Things aren't always pure and clean. And they had a great system where they would test each batch. And he goes, we would buy from very well-known organic carrot producers. And they would come in contaminated. And they would send them back and said, no, we tested it. We can't have that. Most companies don't test like that. They buy, they take the word for it, and they put it into the food, and they label it as such as organic.
They have a book, right? Do they have a book?
They do have a book.
Yes.
We have their book here somewhere.
Yes.
We should have had it handy. We go off on tangents on. We weren't even, when we started this. Arn and Ronnie Koss weren't even part of our dialogue in this. But it's sharing and talking about this is very pertinent to this topic of what we're talking about. So that's great Americans, great story. And one last thing on Arnie and Ronnie Koss, they were about to embark on something that had never been done, a new baby company in 40 years. Now, this happened in the 70s.
Right.
There wasn't the last time a baby food company was introduced was like World War II. So you go from World War II to the 70s, and a new company comes on board that wants national distribution.
Right.
And it's going to be organic. It's not going into a health food store. And it's not a niche product that's going, small distribution. They're thinking big, large, let's do it, let's go big. They're now placing a brand new product next to Gerber, the leader in the industry. These guys... And they admit they had no idea what they were getting themselves.
They had to do a lot of marketing.
They had no idea what they were getting themselves. They admit that.
Yeah.
But they had a vision and a persistence, and they kept going and going, and everybody knows Earth's Best now.
Which we're going to talk about visions in a little bit and goals and stuff like that. But talk a little bit, you talked about contamination and things like that. Talk about the Dirty Dozen.
Dirty Dozen.
The EWG,
Environmental Working Group's Dirty Dozen.
Talk about the Dirty Dozen a little bit, because I think that's interesting.
People that are on a budget, this is a great place to start.
Because they talked about, a lot of these people in that article, they said chemicals and are not inorganic, and they also talked about pesticides, and then they talked about how much it costs, and is it worth the cost.
Right.
So if you're worried about that, right?
Right.
This is definitely something.
So there's a lot of produce out there that is not sprayed with chemicals to begin with. This is just not part of it. Like, you don't need pesticides for, like, let's just say garlic or onions. There's no animal or bug or pest that wants to eat onions. They'd rather eat something else like strawberries. So there's certain things you might actually throw garlic flakes out there, granulated garlic, to get rid of certain things. So certain things are natural pesticides themselves. So certain produce is better than others when it comes to the industry as a whole. So the Environmental Working Group, EWG, puts out their yearly top dirty dozen. These are the 12 that you should always buy organic. So if you want to go into the organic world, but you're saying, I just can't afford everything organic.
Right.
These 12 would be the must organic items that you would buy before you bought anything else. All right. So number 1 on the list is strawberries.
Strawberries.
Loaded. 2, spinach. Loaded. 3, kale. Those top 3 things there have so much contaminants, chemicals. It takes so much to grow them. Nectarines, apples, grapes.
Grapes.
Are
on the dirty dozen.
Dirty dozen. Peaches, cherries, pears. Tomatoes, of course. Tomatoes are a real big one. Tomatoes are loaded with a ton of things, especially in the wintertime when you're buying tomatoes from Florida. Atrocious. Florida just doesn't have the proper humidity. They have way too much humidity. Tomatoes were born. They evolved out of the Peruvian deserts. They're used to a half an inch of rain a year, if that. They come from desert. They're very arid. If you were to plant tomatoes in your backyard, folks, you'd be hard to kill off the tomatoes. They just grow and grow and grow. They don't really need you to excessively water them. They don't want that. They don't need that. Florida, it rains every single day. Florida has very sandy soil. Not good for tomatoes. All the water creates molds and
Which we
funguses.
have found when we've grown tomatoes as well, right?
Oh, here in New York.
Rainy season, forget it. You don't have good tomatoes that year.
Right. So it cost not the organic, but it cost the farmer, I should look this up, but it's literally thousands of dollars per acre to keep tomatoes going in Florida. They have to spray on them because it's too wet. It's too wet. It's the wrong soil. There's no nutrients. They have to douse these tomatoes full of everything. So there's no surprise that tomatoes are on the list.
Okay.
But when you grow tomatoes in your backyard, you will notice you don't need to fertilize them. You don't need to take care of them that much, and you have some of the best tasting tomatoes ever.
Yes.
And these guys in Florida are throwing thousands of dollars per acre, and they still can't get a good tomato.
Well, environment, right? So.
There's also neat tomato law. There's also a tomato law since the 1880s. Not neat it is. But in the 1880s, Florida had such a stronghold on tomatoes. They knew back then that they passed a law that no red tomatoes are shipped out of the state.
Really?
Yep.
So they all have to be green.
Green and gassed.
Wow.
That's it.
How long does it take them to ripe?
Could take a week or so. They gas them, they ship them. This is why your winter tomatoes, if it's not a local tomato,
don't taste very good.
They taste like cardboard. Oh, the tomato tastes like cardboard.
Right, yeah.
Well, yeah, you pick it premature. You can literally play baseball with these tomatoes. That's how green and hard they are when they're picked. And I'm sorry, but even if you put it in the window, it's off the vine, it stops getting its nutrients, it's not going to ripen like it should. And by law, again, they're not allowed to ship out these tomatoes red. Right. They're green when they leave Florida. So there's no wonder tomatoes are totally on that list. Celery. We don't have celery at the restaurant for this. We don't have a lot of these at the restaurant for this situation unless it's organic, but I do have to say celery is the one thing we don't buy at all because you have to buy a whole case of organic. Mm-hmm. Our distributor doesn't split organic celery. For us to buy a full case and just even try to begin to use it, we're going to throw out 90% of it. So we use things like cucumbers. We use other things carrots, like for example, our wing dish.
Yep, it has carrots on it instead of celery.
Yep, carrots instead of celery. We explain to people, I'm sorry, and they don't mind that.
No, they don't. No.
They don't mind at all.
And then you have potatoes.
Potatoes are another one. And believe it or not, hot peppers.
Well, they have a little asterisk next to it, a little thing. So it's
it's
an extra one this year.
Oh, there's an extra one this year. Okay. A small amount, it also says a small amount of sweet corn, papaya, and summer squash sold in the United States and producing genetically modified
Is produced
seeds.
from genetically modified seeds. Buy organic varieties of these crops if you want to avoid genetically modified produce.
Exactly.
So that's an interesting thing too, genetically modified. Why don't you just tell a little bit what is genetically modified? Just,
I'll tell the difference of hybridized versus genetically modified. Because people say, oh, Marcus, everything's genetically modified. No, things are modified, hybridized, but what we're talking about specifically when they talk about the word GE, genetically engineered, or GMO, the thing they're talking about very specifically is where they're taking the two atoms, molecules, like they're taking, for example, strawberries and fish genes. They take these genes and they splice the genes together. They force one gene into the other. So now the strawberries.
That's hybrid.
This is modified, genetically modified.
Yes.
You're taking fish and strawberries.
Yes.
You take the genes and you force them together. And what this does is when you grow strawberries, there's a certain gene they take from fish that fish can go in these amazingly chilly waters and still be alive. So they're thinking, well, the strawberries are now going to have a better life, and you can grow them longer in the cold, and they'll produce. That's it. Now they're taking a foreign fish gene and putting it into. That's not good. They're also taking not other parts from other animals, but they're taking things from chemicals. So they're adding the pesticides to the actual genes.
To the seed,
So when they say, well, we don't have to spray pesticides on anything, all they mean is the pesticide's already in the genes, and it's 100% toxic all the time. They don't need to spray. So that's what they mean by that. So we'll do another show.
I love how knowledgeable you are on all of this. So you're so knowledgeable. Let's talk a little bit about your coaching.
My coaching, our coaching.
Our coaching, yes.
Our coaching.
We both do.
We both
together,
coach. So, yeah. So we, being in the restaurant industry so long, being around business and marketing, that we now actively coach other restaurateurs. I'll work with cleaners. You've worked with gym owners.
Work with anybody.
Anybody
right?
who has a business. Digital marketing, building a database, it's all the same. I've written a couple books on this. I write for Forbes on this. I have a website, 50mistakes.com, 50mistakes@businessownersmake.com. Great website, lots of free resources on there. Anybody can go log in, learn, log in, you don't even need to log in. You can sign up for our emails that come out a couple times a week with more information, a lot of really cool stuff. We do one-on-one coaching, we do group coaching, we do chatbots. If you're interested in doing a chatbot for your business, we should talk. A chatbot is artificial intelligence. It's where you place an ad on Facebook, Messenger takes over when they respond, and it delivers offers, it communicates. It's a great, amazing tool to do business with. Totally. A lot of people haven't heard of them. They're out there. They're not new at all by any means. So if you want to talk chatbots, you want to talk to us, hit us up, 50mistakes.com, and we'll talk soon.
Excellent. So the next subject that we're going to talk about are goals.
Goals, okay.
Goal setting and writing goals down, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel about writing your goals down? That's important, right?
I feel writing goals down is extremely important. You don't have goals unless you're writing them down. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
That's plain. You have a vision. You might be driven by this vision, but when you write a goal down, it is so powerful. So, Jamie, you and I are into goal setting a lot.
We are.
What are some of your best tips for people to set goals?
Absolutely. I just wanted to add in there, people write goals at the beginning of every year, but then they don't continue writing their goals every month. I like to write goals once a month and write yearly goals. And those goals can always change, right? So here's a couple of tips that we've talked about. Did you want to add something?
You can even have weekly goals.
Yeah,
weekly goals are
daily
perfect.
Goals, right?
Daily goals. Here's my big three things that I have to. Don't confuse a to-do list with a goal list.
Well, to-do
list will help
done.
you. A to-do list will help you get your goals done.
Right.
But don't think that you have 50 goals this week because you wrote 50 things down on that's a to-do list. If you're an entrepreneur, that's called a delegation list. You work on the big picture, delegate the small stuff out, and that's your big picture.
So goals. So, a few little tips here about goals. Make sure your goals are attainable. Super important. Make sure they're attainable. Make sure that you put some on there that are attainable, right? You know, at least some. Obviously, you want to think big picture and you want to think bigger and better all the time, right?
Right.
But put things on there that are attainable for you.
Right. If you're going to run a marathon, that's a goal. Your first goal to running a marathon is to buy good shoes, not go out and run 6 miles.
Right. Be specific with your goals. Be very, very specific and write down exactly what you're looking for, right? Exactly what you want to attain, exactly what you want to accomplish. I think that's super important, being very specific. So instead of writing down, I want to work out more, write down what you want to do to work out more. What exactly? I want to go to the gym 2 to 3 days a week. I want to run 2 to 3 days a week. I want to
download a push-up app.
Exactly.
And do push-ups 5 out of 7 days a week.
Make sure they're specific. You want to travel to this country. You want to, I mean, obviously, you can have goals, so many different goals.
Financial, health, relationship goals.
Exactly.
Have a lot of different goals.
Exactly. So be specific, you know, pinpoint a little bit more specific. I think, you know, sharing them publicly, sharing them with somebody, being held accountable.
Great ideas.
Is really important.
Talk more about that and stress on that, because this is super important. Because sometimes people just hide their goals. And when you don't achieve them, there's nobody that's saying,
holding you
why'd you stop?
Exactly. So you want to pick somebody or join a group or share with somebody. I know for us, we share with our staff. We go over our goals and we talk a lot about our goals, but we share with each other. You also have an accountability partner that you talk to every single day.
5 days a week.
5 days a week that you talk about what you want to accomplish in that day, and then you talk about, did you accomplish it the next day? And I think that's really super important as well. So share publicly. Go on social media, share something and say,
love
Go
that.
on social media and say, I'm looking for somebody to hold me accountable to my running this week. Or
quit smoking. If I don't lose 10 pounds, I'll buy somebody dinner.
Right, exactly.
By a certain date.
Exactly. So
adding in a wager is great too.
Right, absolutely.
So maybe have a contest with somebody that both of you want to lose 10 pounds, and whoever loses 10 pounds last has to buy dinner. Right.
That's a great one. It's a great thing. So sharing things publicly, so sharing things on social media type things. You have to be able to update your goals, right? I mean,
oh, yes.
I mean, your goals could change daily. They could change hourly. They could change yearly. But set goals and update them when you need to update them. And don't be afraid to update them. Update them.
Right. I love that, Jamie. I love that part that you just said, because people will obtain a goal and then they'll quit.
Right.
They're like, oh, I'm done with that.
Right.
No, move on to your next. Adjust it and move on to your next goal.
Exactly. And then, you know, Marcus, you were talking about stacking your goals a little bit. That was one of your little tips that you threw in there. Yep. And stacking your goals. Can you just explain a little bit about the stacking?
Yeah, goal stacking. So goal stacking comes in with habit formation. And you kind of want to... so, for example, I had a goal of running every day of the year, which I obtained. And it was a simple goal. Like you said, make them obtainable. For me, running every day of the year was easy because I just said it's going to be at least a mile a day. Boom, I can handle that. Perfect. Now that I've done that, now it's going to be, well, what else can I do for that mile a day? Let me now do push-ups 5 days a week. And so the goal is now 5 days of push-ups a week, for example, or 5 days or 7 days.
So you stacked on your original goal and you stacked on top
because
of
I've formed a habit now. There's a habit that I have in running.
Right.
It's just an automatic habit. I run every day. It's like brushing my teeth. Now I want to do push-ups, just the same thing, like it's brushing my teeth.
Right.
So
to form a habit, how many times do you have to do something?
There's different research on this. 67 times, 64 times, 100 times, 90 times.
Sorry to get off tangent there.
I even read several hundred times in a book that I just finished reading. So it depends on what psychologist, human behavior person you're talking to, what study you're referencing. Mm-hmm. It's all different. But you want to make the task enjoyable and attainable, because let me tell you something. if you did something for 64 days in a row, 6, 7 days in a row that you hated,
won't
you're not
do
going
it.
to do day 68.
No.
It's not going to happen.
Exactly. So
You're going to count down the misery of when you're finishing this and never do it again.
So I find goals just super important, making them attainable, being specific, sharing them publicly, being able to update them, and then stacking your goals and always adding on to different goals that you might have.
So one of the common goals people have is travel.
Yes.
People want to travel. So let's take a moment and talk about our beautiful travel business that we have.
Absolutely. VIP Winery Vacations. I'll add in the .com if you're interested in traveling. Marcus and I travel at least once, twice a year, and we'd love for you to come with us on your next vacation.
Absolutely. So what we do is we take people to vineyards all through Italy, the vineyards we buy from, vineyards we have relationships with. We have a website, VIPWineryVacations.com. There's always a tour up there ready for you to book and travel away to Italy with us. They're 8-day wine intense luxury boutique vacations. A trip of a lifetime is really what they are.
Wine, food,
yes,
and beautiful setting and great people and just traveling with us.
And let's roll right into champagne.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about champagne right now. End the show with talking about champagne, or specifically about one of our favorite sparkling wines. So really quick, folks, there's basically 3 types of sparkling wine. Champagne being the most expensive. Typically, they are from Champagne, France. You basically need a degree to prune the vines. The acreage there is $1 million plus an acre. It's the most expensive area. It's the most highly advanced or technical driven wine region in the world. What they have to do to comply with the standards of there is intense.
Yes.
The aging process, the fermenting in the bottle. So here's the 3 types of sparkling wines. You have what is called forced carbonation. These type of wines basically are wines that are still wines, and then they basically carbonate them like soda. They make a cheap version of that stuff is out there. That's the cheap stuff you find in the store. The cheapest stuff you can find is forced carbonation. They're actually adding gas to the wine, and boom. The second type is where they do it in tanks. And there's called a lot of different types of things, whether it's in Italy or France. This is how Prosecco's made. They actually put the secondary fermentation into the tanks, add more sugar and yeast, and get the bubbles. I'm just simplifying it, but that's basically what happens.
Yes.
The third method, the method champenoise, the traditional method, is where they take the wine is put into the bottles, and the secondary fermentation, the yeast and more sugar, is added to the bottle. And the cork is put on. The magic happens inside the bottle. All that goodness. The wine is tipped, the champagne is tipped on a 45-degree angle, upside down, and the yeast is getting happy in there. But what happens to the yeast eventually? Dies. And it has to go somewhere in that bottle. So when the bottle's upside down on a 45-degree angle, all that dead yeast forms at the neck of the champagne bottle. And so, but you and I don't buy the champagne like that because we would never know what to do with dead yeast in the champagne bottle. It was basically
and you don't want to tip it.
Right. You would never be able to tip it over.
Right.
It would be in the bottom, and you'd pop it, and it would be a disaster. So what they do in champagne, and they do this in cava too. Cava doesn't have the strict regulations of the farming and the pruning, and in France they have to turn the bottle every so often by hand. So you do a quarter turn, and what that does is it distributes the yeast evenly in the bottom, so it's not basically on just one side of the neck of the bottle. In cava they do it by machines typically, and they can go through and do thousands of bottles in a minute. In France it's all done by hand. So it's called riddling. So what they do in champagne is, and then when the champagne's ready to be shipped out, before it's shipped, they actually take it and they freeze the neck of it. They freeze the neck, pop off the cork, and out shoots all of the dead yeast. And then they can do dosage, which means they're topping it off with more if it needs it. Sometimes you don't need it. Sometimes they just top it off anyway. And then they put the cork back in it and send it out.
Right.
So that's how champagne is traditionally made. Well, now let's talk about Movia from Slovenia. And folks, wine comes from a lot of different parts of the world. So if we ever say Slovenia or Croatia or Hungary, these places make amazing wine too. Just that the marketing and the power of the numbers of production comes from France, Italy, and Spain.
Right.
Those are the three big countries in Europe that produce wine. England produces sparkling wines that are very similar to champagne quality. So, but Movia from Croatia, he doesn't do. Slovenia. They don't do the last part of taking out the yeast out of the bottle. They ship it upside down to you in the bottle, in the case, with a special holder. You receive it. Now, folks, you could never do this at home because you have to have a special tool. It's like a crowbar that's especially made for this bottle. And the advantage of leaving the wine or the champagne or the sparkling wine on the lees, the dead yeast, is that it holds its body better. It ages better. It can improve along the way. As soon as you separate the two, you know, the wine's not going to improve. It can age. Champagne can age, but it's not going to really improve. When you keep the dead yeast, it improves. Mm-hmm. So that's why Ales from Movia does this. We have this on our list at the restaurant. We have this special wine crowbar. You put the wine, it keeps it upside down. I just did it the other night for a couple of guests. I do it a couple times a month for guests. And you put that in there, you fasten that champagne cork in it upside down in a bucket of water, twist, pull the crowbar one way, the bottle of champagne the other way. Champagne, I'm saying champagne, it's sparkling wine. And give it a twist, and voila.
Quickly it comes out of the water.
The clear bucket of water quickly turns murky because it blows out all the yeast. And it's like, and you think that you would waste sparkling wine. You don't. You think that you'd leave some of the lees behind. I've never seen it happen, some of the dead yeast. And you have this beautiful sparkling Puro from Movia, from Slovenia.
It's delicious, yes.
So, folks, those are the kind of relationships we work. We know Ales, we know his daughter, we've met the mother, we've sent people to the vineyard. Amazing, amazing wines. So those are the kind of wineries we take you to when we take you out with us to Italy, and we did Spain as well. Mm-hmm. So
relationship building,
yes.
What it's about for us.
Yes, I learned how to do that from the owner of the vineyard, from Ales. He showed me several times. The daughter showed me. It was a great experience.
It sure was.
So, anything else, Jamie, before we sign off?
No, I think we covered a lot of information today. And a lot of information.
We're thankful to be back doing this show.
We are.
We're also thankful that we have some great fans. This is on a great network. You can find this show several different places. W4 Divas is where it originally airs and what this show is designed to be put on. So thank you to Deb Hilary and her amazing team and her amazing vision for getting us on there, putting us on there, and believing in us. We just love providing content. Eat, learn, live. If you learned something new today, you can say, well, this is what we say in Italy when we go to Italy. We take our guests to Italy. I learned something new. So if you learned something new today, say, I learned something new. And you could go to Italy with us.
Absolutely.
You could be qualified to go to Italy.
Yes.
All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. And until our next episode.